My name is Adam Andrzejewski, and I'm the founder and CEO of OpenTheBooks.com. And you know our mission. It's every dime online in real time. And last year, we successfully filed 40,000 Freedom of Information Act requests. We were successful in capturing 25 million public employees' salary and pension records at the federal, state, and local level across the country. Pretty much, we have every single public employee's salary and pension record at every level of government across the whole country. That's their name, their position title, oftentimes, and what they made last year and what unit of government they work for, even in your own school district. So today on our ripoff of the week, we're going to talk about a record actually that we don't have. And it's for one of the most powerful persons in the entire country. And it is the only elected official that we know of that is not subject to turning over the payroll records in their office. So without further ado, I want to get right to my co-host, Tamara Colbert.
Good evening, Adam. Thanks so much. So this week's Forbes piece, Open the Books, new article saying Vice President Harris is the least transparent elected official in the nation. Why is that?
So, we have 25 million records in our database just from last year alone. So we have the White House, we have Congress, we've got about 50,000 public bodies across the country at the local level. We've got all the state employees' salaries. In many states, the pension records aren't available, but where they are, we have them in our database. And we noticed that there was a hole, and the hole was for the Vice President of the United States. And so we filed the Freedom of Information Act request, and it was rejected by Kamala Harris's office. They said, quote, "We're not subject to the Freedom of Information Act." And sure enough, Tamara, they're not subject to the Freedom of Information Act. However, Congress isn't subject either. But all the salaries of your member of Congress, of their staffs, of all the congressional committees, the Capitol Hill police, everybody, all of it in Congress is subject to public disclosure on who, by title, makes how much money last year, but not the vice president, not Kamala Harris's office.
So I thought federal agencies, the White House, and all 50 states legally had to disclose this kind of information to the American taxpayer.
Well, they do. It's a matter of public law, and here's why. You and I, we're the taxpayers, Tamara.
Right.
And when we pay taxes, we sacrifice. We sacrifice by working longer hours, by taking away dollars from our own families, by doing things that you and I would want to do individually. So we pay those taxes, but in the American experiment, we get to follow the money. And a big chunk of any single government budget is who is hired by that unit, what they do for a living for them, for that government unit, and how much they make. And that's why there's public disclosure of government payrolls. And they're disclosed everywhere, except the Office of Vice President.
Which she works for us, right? So it seems like we should be able to see what's going on in that office. Is there anything outrageous that Open the Books auditors asked for in that FOIA request to the vice president?
No, it's just our standard Freedom of Information Act request. And we filed that roughly 40,000 times last year. And it never gets rejected because it's part of settled law. But it got rejected there. I mean, even the Federal Reserve, and this is going to be a good story over the next couple of weeks, even the Federal Reserve complied with our Freedom of Information Act request. But again, not Kamala Harris, not the vice president. We even followed up with her. Said, just, give us what you can, some high-level stats. How many people are in your employ? Like how many full-time equivalents, right? How much payroll in the aggregate, in summary, is paid out on the fiscal year? And they wouldn't even disclose that. So what we did is what any good watchdog organization would do is we tried to piece it together from the federal budget. And we were successful doing that. Kamala Harris has asked for roughly a 20% increase in her budget versus the last year of Mike Pence, an extra $1 million. She operates her office on about $6 million. She's up about 10%, 15% in headcount, actually about 15 to 20% in headcount. Pence had about, I think it was 23 staffers, and she has a headcount staff of 27. But she didn't give it to us. She's not transparent. She's not going to open her own books. They are just hiding under this exclusion in federal law. And the law needs to be challenged, for one thing, because we're not exactly sure she gets to hide.
So why should citizens, we've seen a lot of comments going on about this, why should citizens be concerned about the vice president rejecting our FOIA request?
Because she's laying down a marker that her payrolls are not subject to citizen review. And that runs antithetical and right up against the entire premise of this country, where the people are supposed to be in the driver's seat, and we are the ones telling government how fast to go, when to turn, and most importantly, when to stop. And she's rejected that premise with her rejection of basic transparency in her office. Here's why there needs to be a lawsuit on this, and we're up for this. And we're going to shop this to public interest firms in Washington, D.C. The reason is that she is depending on a memo written by a staff lawyer when Bill Clinton was president and Al Gore was vice president, that was employed by the office of vice president to tell Al Gore that he wasn't subject to the Federal Freedom of Information Act. So I think it stinks. I think it should be challenged. So everybody watching the program today, if you're incensed about this, is what we are. If you believe transparency is transformational, go over to openthebooks.com, give us a donation. We're going to turn that right into action.
That's fantastic. Now, Adam, isn't there a federally, it's what, 5 years after an executive leaves office that you can look at those records? Is that what the rule is?
It is. So we wouldn't be able to see this kind of information, I believe, until, do the math really quickly, 2029. And that's, look, that's way too far in the future.
And so why is sound transparency important, especially to the person who is second in command? And should President Biden become incapacitated, this person is going to be the next president. Seems like transparency for her office is going to be paramount for all of us to see what's going on there.
Well, absolutely. So, for instance, we know that because the White House payrolls are disclosed, and we lead on this every single year, we beat every single news organization to the story. They're disclosed on June 30th of every year. We're there as soon as they're posted. Our auditors kick into action. The Biden administration has over 500 employees at the White House. We've never had a president's White House staff exceed 500. His payroll numbers are pushing 600 employees. So what's going on at the vice president's staff? We want to know who's hired, what they're doing, what their job titles are, and how much they're making. And I think it's critical information.
Absolutely. I want you to reiterate one more time. There is Sean online is saying it is illegal to disclose these numbers for these public employees. Adam, why is that not true? Public employee numbers are able to be disclosed.
Yeah, as far as we know, everywhere in the country, like I said, last year we're holding 25 million records. Like, it's settled law. If you don't want your salary disclosed, go to the private sector. That's why they call it the private sector. The government sector is called the public sector because there's public disclosure. We're the taxpayers. We pay your salary. We pay the freight. We deserve to be able to follow the money and hold the elected officials and the administrative state, the regulatory state, now more important than ever, accountable. You can't make America great again unless we make America accountable again. And we stand for that accountability at openthebooks.com.
Absolutely. You can learn more at openthebooks.com. Thanks so much for joining us on Thursday. You can catch Rip Off of the Week every Thursday at 4:30 Central, 5:30 Eastern Time. Thanks for all your great comments. And we're going to post this article here online shortly. Thanks so much. See you next week, everybody.
Thank you.